Jillian's here too. Just in time. I'll add Jillian in as well. Okay, folks, welcome to the latest quarterly town hall. We've got a full cast of characters from the talent group this evening. So hopefully we'll be able to give you some good information, answer any questions, that sort of thing. Before we start, if you do have a question that comes up anywhere along the way that you'd like us to answer, we'll probably hold it to the end. But please use the Q&A function. We'll be monitoring that. The chat is for separate sort of conversations. We won't be looking at that. So if you could do that for us, that would be great. And without further ado, get my controls here. We'll get going. We'll start with a real quick update about some adjustments that have been made in the talent team to the roles. Kirk's role doesn't change. He's still beach performance director. I've taken on the indoor performance director role officially and fully, which has kind of been part of my job before, but the decision was made that the way things are developing, we need somebody more fully into this role moving forward. So take that as a good thing from the perspective of development of the indoor side of the game. And then Jillian, who's joined us, is picking up more of the administration of the talent space, both across both beach and indoor, to help us do better with all of the stuff that's going on now. And it really has been over the last 2 years, a pretty dramatic expansion in what we're doing in a lot of different areas, and hopefully stuff that we'll be able to continue doing moving forward. But as always, if there's anything that comes a question or an issue that you have, use the talent inbox, the talent email, talent@volleyballengland.org, and that will go to anybody. Will be able to pick that up and hopefully answer your question or at least point you in the right direction. So that's that little piece of housekeeping. So we'll move on to the calendars and kind of talking about updates about indoor and beach, and we'll start off with Kirk.
Yeah. Hi. Sorry. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I guess coming up now next, we just had our a selection team camp over the 3rd and 4th of May. So our next one will be our national team prep camp for NEVSA. And then we'll have the senior NEVSA for the first time in Bridlington on the 27th to the 29th of June. And straight after that will be our junior NEVSA, which is now a what would you call it, John? For the CV,
Euro qualifier. Is it all
Euro
qualification?
Yep. Yeah. So I like a Euro qualifier now. So it's obviously a little bit a different format and a really strong teams coming from our NEVSA nations. We're looking to, for the first time as well, a lot of new things here. So obviously senior NEVSA and beach futures. So people that are aware of the futures events that are run indoor, we're bringing that out to the beach. So it'll be the 2010s to the 2012s at Leighton side out on the 12th of July. We'll also have a national team camp on the 26th and 27th of July with European under 22s 14th to 17th of August, under 20 Euros 21st to the 24th and 11th to the 14th of September, a little bit later this year, for the under 18 European Championships. So yeah, busy calendar.
And I didn't even include in here the small countries, which will be in August again, right? Mid-August, approximately.
Yeah, be in August, yes. So we'll be looking at our development athletes and our younger athletes, the next generation kind of coming through into these kind of NEVSA setup.
Do you want to throw something in real quick about BCU?
Yeah, at the moment, we are just making sure that we're doing a lot of planning and putting things together around the roles, so the job description around coaching and all the pieces around, and the bubble is going to be ready by the 1st of September. So that's the date that we have scheduled in. So really excited about that. and just the kind of future prospects. I know they're on socials and stuff. We're going to have some stuff coming up now, so I won't say too much now. We'll wait for the socials to kind of bring stuff out and inform everyone and show everyone. Yeah, cool new high performance kind of program that we're looking to create.
All right. On the indoor side, the next two big things coming up will be the U22 Euro qualification. The women will be in Slovakia, right close on the Czech border, with Poland and Israel as the other two teams in that group. So Poland obviously is a quite strong team of late, especially on the women's side, have done quite well. The following week, the 11th to 13th, the men are going to be in Italy, which will be an interesting challenge just outside of Rome, with Ukraine and Nevzat Fellows Denmark will also be the other two teams in the pool. So we're looking forward. This will be the first time we've ever put teams into the U22s. So we see it as an kind of a pathway organizational learning opportunity to see where we really need to be at that age group in the future to be competitive and to benchmark ourselves against the best teams in Europe as we work to progressively develop our programs to, get to the point where we are competing with those teams on a regular basis. After that, there'll be August camp for the under 17s and under 19s. That'll be the selection camp for this year's indoor Nevza, which will then take place as usual mid-month for the under 17s, 13th to the 15th of October. That'll be in Denmark, where it's been the last couple of years. And likewise, the under 19s will be in Faro, 24th, 26th of October. Again, those are the same trips that we've done before. In between the August camp and the actual tournaments, we're going to be lining up some competition and some training to help the teams get prepared for the event so they can go in and have had some experience playing with each other as a unit. And then the last thing for the calendar year that's kind of tentatively in the books is December camp, just before the holidays, where there may be some other things that pop into there, because a couple of things that we're looking at is potentially getting our under 19s playing in the Shield next season and the under 17s playing in the Student Cup. The Student Cup qualification is in November, generally speaking. I expect it'll still be there again this year. So that's when the teams there will play. And in the case of the under 19s, it could potentially play a Shield match before Nevza as part of their preparation for that tournament. So those are things that we're kind of really looking at and seeing as potential opportunities for our groups to get out there and do some interesting things as a team. So, but with that, one of the things that Kirk and I wanted to talk about this evening, since we've just been going through selection process, is what those procedures look like. We've published the procedures themselves and the policies and how somebody's available or not available, to be considered for selection and who makes up the selection group. And basically the way it works structurally is that the selection committee comprises of the relevant performance director, so Kirk for the beach, myself for indoor, another member of the talent team, and then somebody from the senior leadership team. So that might be, like in the case of the beach selection last week, that was Kirk as performance director, myself from talent, and Jillian from senior leadership team, or vice versa. Jillian and I could have taken either role in that capacity. And we do similar sorts of things indoor. The coaches don't specifically have a vote in the process, but they do definitely have input. Kirk, you want to just talk about how that works a little?
Yeah, I mean, you've summed it up quite nicely there. I guess in a lot of ways, the coaches, I think, on the beach side of things, we were all there over both days. Most, there was a few that weren't there because they had other obligations on, but having a conversation and just kind of talking through and debating looking around some kind of key guiding principles where we believe we want to kind of take the program and what we're looking for. I think we have on the beach side of things too. We've got a nice synergy around this. The athletes that competed last year, so we knew a lot of them already who were coming into it, which is really nice. So we can kind of see progressions. And see just the development within the athletes, and then also seeing those outliers, the athletes that have come in and showing their talent too. So yeah, no, it was a nice. I think it went for close to 2.5 hours, 2 hours, something like that, and
almost 2 hours.
Yeah, so it was good. It was nice and open. Everyone speaking what they think and giving their opinion around stuff and trying to work through it. Yeah, it's a good process.
Yeah, and on the indoor side, our big priority in selecting for August camp was identifying players that we felt and the coaches felt were going to be competitive for spots in the Nevza squad. So people who are at this point could easily fall, either in the team or very close to being in the team if we were to do selections right now, which of course we're not doing. But that's the idea. We don't want to include people that realistically at this point in their development aren't there yet. And the key thing is yet. If somebody's in the pathway, then we think that at some point they will be in a position to be in this sort of selection where they, are in a competitive scenario with others in their position and in their age group to get into an England squad. So that's kind of in the nutshell of how we do these things, and we're happy to answer questions around that. We just want to make sure that people understand that this is how the process works, and to include something that's very important in this is we intentionally seek out any conflicts of interest and make sure that those are not a factor in the selection process or even the discussions around selection. So if somebody's the coach of a player or the parent of a player related or otherwise has a relationship with a player, then they're not involved in any of the discussions around that athlete. They're literally not even in the meeting. And the other coaches and the rest of the staff will have the discussion without their involvement. This is obviously to avoid any kind of scenarios where there might be concerns that there's a bias involved. Somebody got selected because they're so and so knows them or whatever. It's just all part of trying to keep things above board and as forward and straight for everybody as possible. So, like I said, if there's any questions around that, feel free to throw that into the Q&A, and we'll circle back around. But in the meantime, the kind of the last thing that we really want to talk about is something that's potentially the biggest part of all of this that we can share tonight. A few months ago, I got into a conversation with Joel Brennigan from TAS. I won't go into exactly what TAS is, but it's one of the programs that helps talented athletes, specifically talent level athletes, with support around S&C and nutrition and mental health and things like that. Joel is the lead for them on S&C. Anybody who was at our coaches symposium back in September will remember Joel because he was there doing a presentation on warm-up activation, getting ready to train, getting ready to play. Well, after that, Joel and I had a conversation about how he might be able to help us further. And we identified, a couple of key areas where he could really, allow us to address some structural weaknesses that we perceive in what we offer right now. And the biggest part of that we discussed at the time, so the top priority we gave him was a general S&C program for the volleyball community. So for all athletes, particularly our younger athletes, that isn't something that's going to require a lot of equipment, can be done body weight in a lot of cases, doesn't necessarily need an S&C coach on hand to help, although that's certainly, if you've got somebody available, then that's great. And we definitely encourage you to do that. But what Joel has come back with over the last couple of months is an actual a fleshed out program. So we're in the process now of looking at how we can start rolling that out on two levels. One is to the club coaches and an understanding of some things around age and stage of development and things like that, and how this program can fit into that, and how other pieces might come in along that path. And then the actual program itself for athletes and their parents that's straightforward, simple. These are the exercises. This is how often, how many reps you'll do, how often, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, whatever. Instructional videos, all of that sort of stuff. So like I said, we're in the process now of looking at how we're going to roll that out in the most effective way possible so we can get it out broadly in the community and then use that as a foundation that we can then build upon to develop that next higher level of S&C work, especially for our talent pathway athletes. Uh, we see this kind of this foundation piece as supporting everybody in the community in being healthier, avoiding injuries, avoiding especially overuse type injuries, but also acute injuries from collisions or just accidents or whatever. And also helping to elevate performance, because one of the consistent things that we see when we have players at camp or when we go watch juniors competitions, whatever it might be, is our athletes here in England are not as strong, not as physical as their counterparts in other countries. We may match up in terms of height, for example, especially on the boys and men's side. We've got plenty of height in our male athletes, but we don't have the same level of explosiveness of power of movement around the court as, say, Finland or Norway in Nevza, or the teams that the under 22s will face in Italy and the like, when you get to that level of competition in Europe. So it's a big priority for us to start addressing that. So you'll see before too much longer that this S&C piece starts to get rolled into things. Anything you want to add on that, Kirk?
No, I just think, this is a really great first level. Really, I think the bit that I'm excited about is the why piece, and maybe the little bit of linking a little bit of the triangle between the coach, the parent, and the athlete, bit. So the bit outside. So yeah, I just think some of the fundamental kind of movements and mobility kind of stuff I really like. So yeah, well done, John.
Thanks. Jillian, did you want to add anything about how this links in with the junior development pathway?
Yeah, I think we've tried to, we've just developed a series of resources for under 14s. So looking at 2-a-side, 3-a-side, and 4-a-side. And we've got some physical competencies and movement competencies embedded in that program. And so what John's doing is building on that and layering on from there, so that hopefully we can take the athletes through gradual progression that improves their physical development as well as their technical, tactical, and social development.
Okay, very good. All right, well, that concludes the presentation element of the town hall. So we can now turn it over to the Q&A. So as I said before, please make sure you use the Q&A function in Teams rather than the chat function, because we're monitoring the Q&A one and not the other. All right, so first question that I see, would you consider entering talent athletes in Cornacchia? I'm assuming that's 2026 because 2025 has already passed. At this point, well, there's a couple of different Cornacchias, as I understand it, or at least there used to be. The one that clubs have been going to these last few years is much more club oriented, and we're happy to leave that space for the clubs. I think that's a good opportunity for them. We'll look at other opportunities. We actually did look at the other Cornacchia, but for this year the age group just didn't work for us. It was too young, so I think that one takes place in February, if I remember correctly. So it's something that we'll look at in the future. It's just a question of whether it fits in with what we're doing in our prioritizations for the teams. So there's that. Hopefully we'll find other things that are equally valuable, because that's becoming a priority for us indoors, is getting our teams out there playing a lot more than has been the case in the last few years. And kind of related to that, we had a question about a boys' trip. Sorry. We're still looking at trying to get it in to Romania. It was just an issue of timing in Romania, as I understand it, because of the way the boys' season and some cup finals and some other stuff was going on. I was told it was a challenging time to do it then, but it is something we're still, sorry, I'm going to cough again, but it is something we're still looking into working into the schedule. Okay, hopefully that's better. The next question is about dice. The reshaping is definitely still a work in progress, and I would call it more of it's an ongoing evolution, because we had to take over primary responsibility for running dice. Not this cohort, but last year's cohort that started. So the one that started in the fall of 2023. We're learning along the way and making changes kind of each year that goes forward as we get feedback, both from our tutors, our specialists in sports psych and nutrition, what we hear from the athletes, what we hear from our partner at Loughborough College, and all that, and things that we're looking at in the broader scope. We've said for a while now that one of our intentions is to get a national academy going again, and that would likely be tied in with dice. It's not something that's in the cards right now, but it's definitely something that we are looking very seriously at, possibly for 2026 start. Cough again. But one of the things that we do want to do this year is be earlier in terms of getting information about dice out, so people understand what the program is, what the benefits are, how it works, all of that stuff, so we can identify candidates for it sooner than we would normally do. So look for that probably June. I would is what I'm targeting, somewhere around there, so we can do some like an info session, something along the lines of this sort of presentation, and then be able to answer questions, get people to understand what dice is all about, and all of those sorts of things. Next up. All right. For the new SNC, happy for our son to be involved in trying out at home and at the gym workout regimes if you need a guinea pig. Well, appreciate that. Hopefully we'll have a whole lot of guinea pigs, and it won't be too much actual testing. It'll be more people getting to work and seeing progress and making nice gains that they can show off the next time they're playing. All right. So if there's any more, keep firing away. We're still here. Meanwhile, Kirk and Jillian, if there's anything we've touched on that we haven't touched on that's worth putting out there, feel free to check it in as we wait for more questions. Or not.
No, nothing from me. I think like the calendar, obviously like the selection process that we just went through, updates was important. So, and I think this S&C program that we're launching is exciting. So, yeah, nothing more from me.
Well, here's a question for you, Kirk.
Yes.
Not that this has been typed in. This is from me to you,
Yes.
representative of the people. What are your thoughts on the early season performance of our teams on the Pro Tour?
Yeah. The Bellows had a fairly good start in the elites. And so just trying. I got a little injury at the moment. So they're just kind of dealing with that. And Freddie and Issa are now in China. They're in the Challenger in Xiamen. And they'll be following up that with a futures event. So yeah, looking forward to kind of see how they're going. Another opportunity for them to kind of get their season going. Sometimes it can be quite difficult. You lose one game in the qualifier and then you're out. So hopefully they can get a string of games going, and they've had some great some good training camps in Germany and preparation. So yeah, looking forward to kind of seeing how they've been. Alice and Kirsty were in Italy, won their first game against Canada in the qualifier, and then lost against an Italian team. So yeah, that was Alice's first international senior event. So she got a win, I think, against quite a good Canadian team, I think. So yeah, I think they'll be disappointed that they couldn't keep going, but I think a good start for them for the beach season as well.
Good. Okay, next question came in. In general, the junior standard seems to be getting better year on year. Are you seeing that from a developmental perspective? Yes and no. I think the transition to the Grand Prix format that's taken place over these last couple of years to get more teams playing more events instead of the old knockout style that went on before in kind of in the cup format is definitely a big plus, and it's showing. I like the competitiveness at the top. Unfortunately, I don't get to see a lot of the lower down leagues and divisions in the different age groups, but it's nice to see that the matches that are going on in the Super Series for the under 18s and at a similar level for the under 16s and 15s are close matches. They're competitive matches. They're not just blowouts, and only one or two teams are dominating all the time. And so when it came to cup finals, there were some new entrants in cup finals that came from clubs that hadn't been there before, which was great. And that's what we want to see. We want more clubs involved, raising the level of sport and challenging kind of some of these clubs that have consistently been there year in and year out. It can only benefit the sport overall. The no reason I gave, on the flip side of that is there's the physical element that really hasn't changed, and we need to get better, and that's the S&C element that I talked about. And the one drawback that we have from a talent perspective, this isn't necessarily just from a juniors perspective, but from a talent perspective, is almost all of our juniors events are single day events with the exception of interregionals, which is basically a day and a half. So all of the international events that we would enter, whether it's NEVSA or Euro qualifiers or whatever, they're at least 3-day events and sometimes longer. And so our domestic events aren't yet to the point where they're able to develop this a kind of level of conditioning that our athletes need on the international stage. Now, we've talked internally about how can we make that better, and Jillian and I just had a meeting on Friday with two of the guys from the competitions team to talk about how can we even keep improving the juniors competitions as they exist now, create more competition, create more development. So it's something that is definitely still a work in progress. We see plenty of opportunity for continued gain, which is really exciting. Even if you take the national teams out of it, the idea that we can keep making junior volleyball better and stronger, more exciting for people is a great thing. It's great for the sport, both in the intermediate term and for the long term, because those are the players that are going to play in the MVL one day. presumably. So we like a lot. We like what's really going on. There's just some things that we can do better from a talent perspective to get our athletes a little bit more prepared for international competition. But that's our job in the talent space, is to look for those opportunities, like doing better S&C, like bringing in other resources that we're working on, and building it forward. I don't know if Jillian and Kirk, you guys want to add anything onto that?
No, I think from me, I definitely think that the standard is improving. So that's just from my eyes and my opinion. But yeah, I mean, like you say, pretty much, John, still some ways to go in a lot of areas. So yeah, I agree with everything you just said.
Okay. Jillian, you might be able to help answer this question, although Bertrand, unfortunately, would be the best one. Somebody's asked, DICE starting in the next cohort starting in the fall of this year. This person is wondering, are those who are currently already doing A levels able to start on DICE? So I guess a year behind. Now, the tricky bit there is DICE is basically a 2-year program. So if you're going to finish your A levels before DICE would finish, that doesn't seem like it would work. Any insights there, Jillian?
I don't know the answer to that. My guess would be no, but we'd have to check and get back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a Bertrand question. He would probably be able to rattle off an answer straight away. But yeah, we'll have to circle back on that one. But thanks for the question. Any more from anybody else out there? For anybody's interested, just while we wait to see if there's any other questions, tonight is the NCAA Men's Championship Final. I'm sure of the video of it will be up on YouTube by the time we wake up in the morning. It's UCLA against Long Beach. Long Beach has a Bulgarian setter who's 6'10", ridiculously athletic. Serves the ball. I think he's been clocked at 84 miles an hour, which is pretty close to 130 kph. Has over 100 aces on the season. So he alone is probably worth the price of admission. But it should be an interesting battle. I watched the semifinals. I think it's going to be two good teams going at each other. I believe they were the number two seeds overall going in. So there you go. Look for that on YouTube. All right. Do we know when beach selections will be communicated? Is the next question.
Yeah, so we're just waiting to hear from Nevza now to just communicate like our final communication. So they said by the end of today, and then they'll be going out as soon as possible. So yeah.
Izzy's already said tomorrow. She's on the case.
She's on it. We're on the same page, Izzy.
Yeah,
like
she's kicking on gas.
Nice.
All right. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else kind of floating around out there. Obviously, you've got the next camp for the Nevza teams, the Nevza selected teams at the end of the month, again at the MVC. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I'll wind it up for the evening. And as usual, we'll post the recording for anybody who wants to watch it again, and obviously for those who didn't get a chance to be here this evening. And as I said, if there's any questions that you might have, talent@volleyballengland.org. So you reach us, and we hope everybody has a good evening. Good night.